I did try printing in the sun initially, but it was like the middle of April or March, and trying to print over 600 cyanotypes in the sun to a deadline for a commercial company for a commission was totally unrealistic. So today I'm going to talk about the Tycho Jones video, which was entirely animated out of cyanotype. They contacted me about making a music video for the song Don't Be Afraid. I'd wanted to create a cyanotype animation for a long time, specifically one that followed on from my previous film, Here Comes the Wildfire, which was a Lumen print animation about wildfires in the British uplands, and all hand printed in that way. And I wanted to make a kind of sequel to that, I guess, about the consequences of land management in the UK in terms of flooding. In terms of like the wider context of the video, if you've seen it, there's a lot of like kind of footage of birds and a lot of footage of kind of climate disaster. So forests being chopped down, glaciers melting, quite generalized imagery that you'd associate with the ecological crisis. And I suppose for a while I'd been thinking about the relationship between birds and climate change and what birds represent in terms of freedom, but the reality of a lot of their species going through extinction. And so I wanted to kind of incorporate those themes into the project, and I also thought they were relevant to the kind of general themes of the music video. So in terms of how I created a stop motion video using cyanotype, all the original footage is digital. So I shot everything of Tycho, and there's a lot of stock footage, etc., on a digital camera, so a DSLR. So I did do this one at 24 frames per second, which is like essentially full speed. Typically animations are slower than that to save the animator a lot of work. So following from that, once I split all the frames, I printed them on acetate, and then printed them as cyanotypes using the cyanotype process. So per cyanotype, I'd get 9 frames, which meant I had to do about 600 cyanotypes. This is not from the Tycho video, but you can see a kind of like rough idea here of how it works. This is obviously 16 frames per sheet, but you essentially get these kind of frames once you've done the print, and then you scan them in. And then I crop them in Lightroom once they've been scanned, and then just kind of put them all together. Generally, my week would look like, because it took me 3 months overall to make the video, but when I was doing the printing section, which was definitely the hardest section, the most exhausting section, I'd basically go to the darkroom, coat a bunch of sheets, wait for them to dry on the same day, and then sellotape the negatives to them, order them, number them, store them when they were dry overnight. So fortunately, I found this enormous UV bed that was probably like 6 feet wide in the basement, like pretty much unused. So I was able to print 20 cyanotypes at a time. So I'd have to transport them in a box, like covered in bin bags, all the way down to this basement in this separate building, expose them all the ones I'd prepared, so between like 50 and 100, which would take about an hour or two, and then go back to the darkroom, wash them, and then dry them, and then basically just repeat that kind of 2-day process over and over again until I'd printed everything. So yeah, that was quite exhausting. And then once I'd printed everything, I had to scan them, which is an easy thing to do, but just insanely time consuming. With the animation, I think I've always just had a preference for moving image and moving image formats, and find still images quite frustrating or not able to convey what I really care about, or how I want to like express myself conceptually. And so when it came to animating with alternative processes, yeah, it just kind of like popped into my head, and I gave it a go, and thankfully it looked really nice.